Welcome to everybody watching. This is our third installment of Rabbit Holes. I'm here with Tall Tree Jeremy. I'm Franklin Bush Whisperer. And we're going to be getting into the ideas that stem from our previous ones. We were talking about healing. And we were talking about ley lines. Let me move that lampshade out of the way. And now we're going to be talking a little bit more specifically about healing and how that works in relation to consciousness and in relation to this subtle network of ley lines that run through the earth. As above, so below, it's reflected in the body. Welcome, dear brother Jeremy. How goes your day?
It's good. It's just starting. I've been reading that there's been some significant solar activity that was is or was. I mean, it's impacting everywhere, but it seemed to have a focus on Africa. I was wondering if you guys have been experiencing any kind of like electrical weirdness.
Electrical weirdness. Well, there's definitely something going on this side of the world. The sun, electrical weirdness, definitely. Seasons out of place. Insects out of place. Unusual insects. Unusual bird life. Seasons out of place. Right? I mean, I suppose that's all pretty electrical.
Yeah. I mean, I've been kind of paying attention to it because like I remember in your YouTube series talking about like the different planets, the different celestial bodies, and like the how you could hear them. And I've just been kind of thinking about how, you know, if the Earth itself is like this organism, you know, with its own electromagnetic field, and it's obviously so much bigger than we are, and so is the sun and the moon and the other celestial bodies. Like how could they not have some sort of effect on us and the ebbs and tides of civilization, be it the rise and prospering of civilizations and their decline into, you know, decadency and degeneracy and warfare. And the general health of people with alongside the rise in or decline of technologies. It made me think if that all is subject to these greater ebbs and flows of energy that come from the earth and the sun and these other planets, and it made me think about, you know, like astrology and what if astrology and paying attention to the stars and the sky and, you know, the sky, you know, the sorts of things that we know ancient cultures and civilizations did for, you know, thousands of years. If paying attention to that, mapping that is simply trying to align human activity with something that's eternal and beyond us, that we don't necessarily have any control over. And so how does all of that, paying attention to these alignments, how can that help us as individuals become healthier, and more balanced in our lives, and less stressed, and more clear in our thoughts and our actions?
I think we need to look at the model structure of reality to be able to appreciate that. Panpsychism isn't a growing idea, even amongst modern physicists, but it's actually an ancient idea. And I don't ascribe to the version of panpsychism that the physicists ascribe to it, that because we're living in a physical reality, there happens to be a mental component. I go from the perspective, like the ancients did, that we're living in a mental reality, and thus there happens to be a physical component. And panpsychism, for those that don't know, I imagine most people would, is that there is consciousness underneath physicality, and that all things have an aspect of consciousness to them. So when we start to consider the physical reality as a series of emanations of the consciousness field, and I want to clarify that when I speak of physical reality, I don't speak of it as being separate to or opposed to consciousness. I consider that this is just a different grade of consciousness to what I'm thinking. They're both consciousness, they're just different grades of consciousness, sort of like if you imagine the different grades of elements in your body. You have gases which make up your body, and you have minerals and metals that make up your body too. And sorry, that was my girlfriend calling. So in that sense, you've got different elements within your body that are all part of the same. Just let me know I'm with Jeremy. That are all part of the same system, but there are different grades of it. And so I can't speak of my body without taking into account that I have to speak of the minerals, I have to speak of the different organic layers, I have to speak of, but it's all just organics from that perspective. Even the gases become part of the organic system because they're carrying trace elements, they're carrying things which are part of the system. So when I think of physicality in the body, I think of it as being consciousness. And then that there are different grades of texture and density of consciousness. And so with these ideas come in mind concepts like the Hermetic principles, which represent different layers and aspects of the consciousness field that coalesce to become this physical experience of consciousness, or the chakra system of the Vedic system, or the Seperate systems of the Kabbalah. And they all, to me, sort of dovetail the same idea, maybe looking at things from different perspectives sometimes, though that is how I consider the planetary vibrations and energies, that they are resonating on different frequencies, and that these tones and resonant frequencies of the different vibrational fields have effects. Sort of, you see a group of soldiers marching over a bridge, but those vibrations of their boots are resonating throughout the bridge. We can't see it, right? And if they walk in sync, the bridge will collapse. because there'll be standing waves of resonance. And so those footsteps create unseen effects that run through the bridge. And normally they're not devastational, but they can be if aligned in a certain way. And I think the body is the same. There are all these proverbial footsteps, resonance and vibrations running through our body that are tuned and pitched to different harmonics. And each planet carries its own harmonic pitch. And it's timing. And when all of these different harmonic pitches and vibrational tones and sets of rhythms are all in a harmonic synergy within the body, we consider this harmony. And then we say that we're in a state of balance. And when these harmonic pitches are out of harmony, we consider ourselves to be out of balance. And this is like the road to illness or some form of a calamity in the body. So in that way, that's a way of understanding it. I'd also consider that the nature of reality, physical reality, you've got people that swear blind the earth is flat, people that swear blind the earth is round, people that swear that it's not round, it's oblong. Then there's the hollow earth, which there are a lot of maps. There's a lot in history that actually confirms a lot of these ideas that need to be taken into account. And the fact that there are no NASA photographs. And so it makes me think of the nature of reality being an experience of consciousness, and that it can take different forms depending on where our consciousness is at. I mean, these are the principles of magic, right? That one can alter one's consciousness at will and produce standing waves of consciousness that reshape the fabric of reality to manifest whatever it is one chooses to manifest. This is magic 101. So these ideas are not outside of the realm of, and even in the Vedic practices and lore, the development of the siddhi, for example, are the ability to tune one's consciousness to particular resonant frequencies and affect reality in different ways, which sort of explains that the nature of reality and consciousness are not so, and our thoughts are not separate. And many scientists have come across many such ideas as well, when they notice that when they observe an atom, right? This is one of those mind-blowing things that the physicists have discovered. What they call and consider an atom, when they observe it, it behaves differently. So the act of observation affects the state of reality. What does that say about the nature of reality and observation and consciousness? And what are these planets? Are they living beings? Are they emanations of macrocosmic consciousness beings that are all part of a structure? Like in our body, we have a heart, we have lungs, we have different organs, and those different organs are like different beings. And those beings are in a synergetic harmony to produce this physical experience. Is that the same thing that we're looking at in the solar system?
So I'm lucky enough where I live right now that off my back porch, I guess you could say, it faces directly east. And so every morning, almost every morning, I can see Venus extremely clearly. And I've been watching it go across the, or move its position, or its position moves in accordance to where the Earth is, I guess, in relation to the sun. But is it possible? How do you tune in? How do you tune into a planet? Because if their energy is constant, it's already it's already influential at a constant. But how do you become consciously aware and then apply some sort of intent to the awareness.
I would say that there are different ways, and there's different fabrics of experience. So our first fabric of experience that we're experiencing is the sensation, right? Physical body sensations. And so sensations are quite strong, the senses. Another form of experience is the mental ball rolling up the hill experience, which is my metaphor for the act of thinking. We're continually rolling this little ball up the hill, and it rolls off, and we start rolling a ball up the hill, and we're just constantly rolling these little balls up the hill. There's lots of little thoughts, and as we roll these ball up the hill, they gather substance like little dung beetles. Yeah, makes you think of the Egyptian symbol of the dung beetle, right? The scarab. Like, well, what are they really talking about when they talk about the scarab? And so that mental thinking pattern, habituality of narrative running through our head, which is really based upon language, is one aspect of experience, as is the first one, the sensation through the senses. Then the third sphere of action and experience would be the emotional one, right? So there's an emotional experience. So I think we can experience these different states of being and different currents of life in one of three of these ways. Although I don't think it's as clear cut as that, right? Like, it's not necessarily going to be A, B, or C. It's normally going to be a combination of B, so much C, so much A. And we're all going to have our unique little combination, as in, like, we're not going to be using primary blue. We're going to mix our blue with a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red. Some people are going to have a more indigo color blue. Some people are going to have a more turquoise color blue, right? But we're going to be within the blue spectrum, just as a symbolic metaphor to explain what I mean in terms of the mixation of these three fundamental states, which represent the emotions, represent obviously the qualities and the astral forces. And the etheric is the thought-based structuring system for thought structures reality. And by thought, I don't mean the state of thought, I mean the act of thought. And I consider the act of thought and the state of thought as two different things. State of thought contains emotion and thought. The act of thought is independent of emotion, but turns the wheel of emotion as a consequence of emotion, right? Two pedals of a bicycle moving like this. So where you've got thought. So the ancients considered this as Ida and Pingala. So just as a preface, these three different ways. Then from those three paths, there would be three distinct ways of connecting with these energies, right? The sphere of sensation would be ritual, right? You would devise a ritual that involves the senses. Burning, for example, let's say you're doing a ritual for, you mentioned Venus, right? So let's say you wanted to do a ritual for Venus. You would get rose petals, and you would burn rose petals as an incense. Yeah? Because the vibration of rose and the vibration of Venus shares a synergetic link. In the same way that the vibrations of frankincense shares a synergetic link with the vibrations of the solar power, right? And so there are these correspondences that can be found, and these are part of ancient knowledge systems and lectures. And one could do a ritual then. One could have copper, because copper, the vibration of copper shares a synchronicity with the vibration of Venus as well. So one could have a copper container. One could put water in that copper container. One could put rose petals in that water. And one could say a prayer about Venus. What does Venus represent? Well, one would go to one's hermetic astrological grimoires or knowledge bases and recognize that Venus represents harmony, represents beauty, right? So beauty and harmony are the sphere of Venus. It's also got a title of the gateway to the mysteries. So those mysterious inner mysteries are a part of Venus. Love is an expression of Venus. So we would then think to write a poem that reflects the harmony, that reflects beauty, that reflects all of these qualities that Venus imbues. One could chant that poem over this copper container of water, which would be facing the part of the heavens when Venus is rising, for example, right? And one could imbue with one's intention, with one's words, with the actions that one has committed, with that smell of copper, the smell of the rose incense that one's burning, and the charging of that water with the intention and the words to bring harmony of Venus into that water while there are rose petals in that water. And then one could drink that water as an end of a ritual. I'm just designing a ritual from the ground up, just as an example for Venus. So that would be working on the fundamental sensory level ritual. Then on the mental level, one could focus more mentally. One could sit and one could consider the sacred geometry of Venus. And one could permute a square of numbers that relates to the Venus, or construct geometric patterns and sit and contemplate these patterns, what they mean, understanding the mystic symbolisms of the way these numbers interact with each other and the geometry in order to gain an insight into the workings of Venus, the sphere of Venus. This would be another way to tap into Venus's energies. And on an emotional level, one could go into a vision quest, an emotional quest, where one would go within oneself and when in life did I feel beauty and harmony the most? Imagine a time when I observed harmony and beauty and it touched my heart, and go into that experience and become saturated by that emotional state and become aware of the internal colors that I'm experiencing, right? If one has a knowledge base of colors, one could use colors that signify the appropriate vibrations. One could, if one had knowledge, like, for example, you'll find in modern astrology they equate Venus with green. I don't agree with this. It doesn't make sense to me. And I've always thought of Venus as indigo, and so I searched into the ancient histories, and I found, well, they changed it at some point. I was like, well, why did they change it? But then again, they changed our language, they changed our history, they changed a lot of things, right? So all the changes were not necessarily improvements. So I equate Venus with indigo, for example, and these are things I think we should discover for ourselves. And lapis lazuli was a stone that was related to Venus in ancient times, right? By the Egyptians, for example, for that purpose. Or azurite or lazurite, these different gems. And they represent gateways into mysteries, sacred spiritual mysteries. So Venus represents, obviously, the day star, the night star. It represents Lucy, light, Lucy cipher, the cipher of light, right? The light cipher. So it's all about the lights. And Venus had very special connections in ancient times that one could contemplate. The fact that there were ancient times that they considered the night Venus and the day Venus as having two different relevances in an astronomical sense, or an astrological chart, for example, different relevances. to one's consciousness. So that's just an example of 3 different ways of going about achieving the same end. But there will always be a mixation with these 3 elements, usually.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. So to swing it back to healing, I think you were talking about, what was the last our last talk? We were talking about healing trees, by basically praying for them. And so I was thinking, okay, well, and I had listened to this podcast, none of the names come back to me right now, but the gentleman that was being interviewed was specifically talking about the power of the mind to heal, and how anyone can develop their powers of the mind for healing other things too. And so how do sensation, thought, and the emotional tie into mental power to be able to heal things? If that makes sense.
Sorry, my mic. That's an interesting question and interesting phrasing. And, it's a very Western idea of like, I can heal. Yeah.
Okay.
Where from a shamanic perspective, it's more like, I need to get out of the way and let the medicine work.
Okay.
So like from a shamanic perspective, it's like, I am the problem, right? This is me. I'm in the way. Let me step out of the way and let the guides and the ancestors work, because the natural state of being is a state of health.
Right.
And so then that's on one level. So how do I heal? Well, I enter into a state of harmony and start broadcasting my harmony really loudly. And then through harmonic resonance, it will affect you. Example, like, okay, let's use a ridiculous notion. No, thank you. Don't make a noise. I'm busy. So, okay, let's use a ridiculous analogy, right? Let's say I've got like frankincense rubbed all over my body, oil, and I come and sit next to you. I'm going to rub off the frankincense oil onto your body. You'd want to sit next to me because you're going to end up smelling pretty good. If I was covered from head to toe in manure or dung and I came to sit next to you, I'm going to rub that off onto you. And you're going to end up walking away smelling like manure and dung, and you wouldn't want to sit next to me. So there's like a basic analogy of like, I'm in a state of harmony and I'm resonating and vibrating with this pitch. And I'm going to rub off on you. And depending on how much of that I'm wearing will depend on how much I'll rub off on you, right? If I've got like a thick crust of dung on my body and I sit next to you, you're literally going to look like you're wearing dung when you walk down the road away from me, right? People will be like, hey, one side of your body is covered in, what is that? Doesn't smell good, Or frankincense, alternatively, if I've got enough of it on my body and I sit next to you, you're gonna end up feeling oily. You walk away being all oily, and you're gonna hone. People could be like, "Gosh, what do you smell like? You smell amazing," So how we broadcast our vibrations. So we get ourselves out of the way and our natural state of health to be within us, and then we broadcast that blueprint of harmony outside of ourselves. And so we stimulate natural healing to happen in another human being. Basically, these different tones of potential are always accessible to us, and we can reestablish a state of harmony by embracing these different tones with a sense of proportion. And so this is why we hear about the chakras, right? And what they represent. They represent the spinning force of ascending and descending currents in the body and the consciousness. And the spinning, because chakra means spinning. That's what the word chakra means. Like chakra means dizzy, and chakra means spinning. Just like from the language. So they correspond to the hormonal system. So they are like astral emanations, the Vedic chakra system. For example, I did an article about the chakras and the colors associated with them. At some point, some Westerner rocked up who didn't really necessarily have any actual experience of the chakras, right? A psychologist trained in allopathy medicine, for example. I think that was the person. You can go and take a look. It's up there. It's up there in history. And this psychologist, psychiatrist, trained person looked at the chakra system and thought, wow, that's so amazing. 7 different layers. Makes sense. I'm just going to randomly ascribe the rainbow to it. And we're just going to start with red and ascend to violet, because from my Western perspective, that makes the most sense. And this stuck. So now you got all these people running around. This is like the chakra colors that people are using, and it's not necessarily appropriate. It doesn't have any contextual use. Where the original chakra colors were not some Western trained psychoanalyst ascribing color to it. This was people that spent tens of thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours in meditation, actually exiting the physical body and looking into the physical body from outside of the body and observing the color spectrum of vibration, right? 2 different ways of coming to the same kind of idea. So, yeah, I wrote an article about this on my that place where you write articles. I don't write many of them. What's it called? Anyway, and sorry,
Substack.
Yes, on my Substack.
Oh, okay.
At Bush Whisperer in there somewhere. And for people that are interested, if you go and see the Substack, you'll see it there. And so the colors that we ascribe to the chakras are something we really want to consider. And I always advise people to use your own common sense, Unfortunately, we're living in a world of commercial application where everything is about money. And so the people that have been published, right? A lot of that publishing has been controlled by a publishing press, which has got its own particular ideas and agendas.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Yeah, so these chakra vibrations are a part of the emanations of our body, and the cymatic resonant fields of resonance form molecules in alignment with particular principles. And the qualities of those molecules are also governed by the energetic principles. So the astral and the etheric really become the structure of the body. And this is carried by the DNA, which basically has the RNA and the DNA fields carrying all of this information as a vibrational tone, where the DNA has resonance that goes, a lot of the resonance of the DNA is between the 1.5 and 10 gigahertz spectrum. Then there's some more of the DNA going up to the 100 gigahertz and then into the terahertz spectrum of frequency, right up to 10 terahertz. For example, a lot of the microbes, which are part of our body, an important integral part of the body, in other words, keeping the cells together, right? Why the cells don't fly off in different directions. This DNA is very high frequency DNA. A lot of it's like as high as 10 terahertz. And so this means that these vibrational fields are carrying information, and we can see the footprint of the information carried in the vibrational field when we take snapshots of the DNA, which is what scientists want us to believe DNA is, just inert codes, right? Not a living, vibrating system that is carrying the dynamic expression of information through its vibrational field, which makes us think of biblical things like first came the voice, right? And then from the voice came the light, and from the light came the separation of the earth and the water, and from there came all the layers of life, and mineral life, and plant life, and animal life, and human life. So when we consider it from that perspective, we can look at how this works. And another thing I think is quite important for me to point out here, because we're talking about healing, I'd like to pull up an image. So here we have an image of the macrocosm as it's bound in the body, right? This is basically the astrological systems. Like we got Gemini on the shoulders, Leo in the spine and the heart, Cancer on the breast, Libra, the hips, right? The generative functions, and Scorpio, Sagittarius on the thighs, Capricorn on the knees, Aquarius on the calves, and the feet, the heels, Pisces. Obviously, the ram is on the head. And so when we're speaking about healing, right, we're talking about the feet. Not a coincidence that the words work that way. And so the symbol for Pisces represents two fishes swimming in opposite directions. And the fish in archaic symbolism means life. The fishes beneath the water is the life that cannot be seen. This is the reason why the Emmanuel Christian image is the fish, because what he came to offer is true healing, right? Like spiritual, fundamental healing. And so the fish is the symbol of healing. And having these two fishes swimming in opposite directions represents the balance and the harmony that we were talking about, right? So there's that symbol of balance in the body, the two fishes. And so the heels are important. So we then look at what this Pisces represents, and Pisces represents the unconscious and the journey into the unconscious. So dreams, Pisces is the dreamer of the zodiac. And going into this unconscious field, which is the sphere of the shaman, would enter into this unconscious dream state and enter into a trance and allow the natural life-bringing forces, which are intelligent expressions of parts of who we are, our guides, to work through us in order to bring about an opportunity for locked up energy and life force to be released by the unconscious so that it can flow. Sort of like imagine a piece of ground and you've blocked up all the rivers, right? And between where the rivers are blocked up, you would then not have living, lush vegetation because there's no water. So you want your water flowing in order to keep all the lands lush. And it's sort of the same principles in the body. So the consciousness and the unconscious are really where a lot of the healing is done. And many, many illnesses, people don't realize this, many of the illnesses that we experience, right, are from the consciousness field. So we talk about how you can get healed with a placebo, right? And modern medicine recognizes some trials say it's 30%, some trials say it's 50% of all cures are placebo. That says something. So, and that's just what we can discover, right, through our evidence scientific method. There will be more than that we necessarily that slip through the nets, if there's such a high degree. So if most or a significant amount of all of the cures that we have are placebo, how many of those illnesses start as a result of negative placebo? Right? How many illnesses start in the mind and manifest in the body? Because if you're saying that you can overcome the illness in the body with the mind, well, where did the illness start?
Yeah, well, I think you're definitely. I think that a lot of disease. My intuition tells me that, just like you say, that a lot of dis-ease that we experience is mental, are these layers of subconscious wrappings around an emotional state that hasn't been properly expressed, at some sort of physical level, and I'm not even talking about something that it doesn't even have to be dramatic. I mean, I saw this video once about how when animals experience something traumatic and that they'll convulse for a second, and it's like their body getting rid of getting that energy out. You also made me think about, so you mentioned meditation, going out of your body, getting out of your body, and then looking back into the body. And it just made me think about how, in the West, or in the West as a concept, scientifically minded, which is, to me, using the scientific method to break down physical processes into their components, in the attempt to understand how those components interact with each other and also what they're made out of. That process isn't even it's not like it stops at the physical. And definitely, from my research into the government's use of remote viewing, it's not as if these things aren't understood. It's just like our advancement as a species is throttled. Okay, because you take you think about, you want to, if you want to be a doctor, right? If you want to be a doctor in the West, you go to medical school, you get your degrees, you go into residency, blah 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 blah, right? And um, and you practice Western medicine, right? Uh, in the East, it's different. You know, I'm 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 not too familiar with it, but in my mind, it's like, okay, if you want to heal and you want to be holistic about it, why wouldn't you train in meditation so you can get out of the body and then look back into the body, as well as be able to set bones, heal lacerations, uh, be able to describe nutritional information. You know what I mean? Because you were talking, okay, so you were talking about these chakras, um, and I've of course heard about the chakra system before, and all the colors. I've literally sat in classes just like this with people talking about the chakras and their colors, and it wasn't like I was, taking it as gospel, but it was interesting. But I like if you were to tell me to, from a shamanic perspective, understand my own chakras, I don't even know where to start.
I would say this, right? Like if I say a color, try and just freely associate with me. If I say the color purple, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? First mental, physical sensation.
Oh, it's
The
my
open.
daughter because she loves saying the purple. When she says purple, it's so cute. So that's what I
Okay.
immediately thought about.
No, well, that's fair enough. But now, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like when I think of purple and violet, that color seems to be a very sensuous color.
Okay. Yeah. So that was, let me go a little deeper. When I think about the color purple, okay, because I do have a relationship with purple. I don't, it's not like I wear it or even have it around that much, but purple, especially purple, deep purples, even going towards indigo, um, there's there's a rare depth to it in my own experience of purple. Like I'm even thinking about a mushroom right now that I saw in the in Washington.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like you mentioned, going into the indigo spectrum, which is the deep blue, purple indigo. People often equate indigo with dark blue, but it's actually it's a blue purple color.
Hmm.
It's when the violet's going into the blue spectrum. Like when the sun is setting and the sky starts to get dark, but it's not quite dark yet.
Hmm.
The sky, when it's clear night, it turns that color. It's a vivid purple indigo color, right?
Hmm.
Before it gets dark, it's got that violet in there. That's that mystical color, for example. But when I mean like just pure violet and pure purple, one of the reasons why people don't wear violet and purple, right? And this is something that we always knew. I knew this as a child. If I saw a girl wearing purple, I was like, oh, I know what she wants.
Okay.
Like I could just, to me, it just made sense. But I had studied like psychology as a little boy. So I had like studied up what the psychologists had discovered. Like, for example, the color red gives you physical appetite, makes you hungry, right? Makes you want to eat. Um, Stimulates your pancreas, right?
Hmm.
That's why McDonald's, Kentucky, no. The list goes on.
Well, I was thinking, you
Of
want to,
restaurants with the color red in it.
yeah, you want to, if you want to experience the most sensuous color of violet and purple start cutting open fruit and looking inside.
Yeah, that's true. And that comes with smell and sense and all of this. So like they discovered that the color red makes you appetites. It stimulates all of your appetites. They discovered that the color blue makes you feel cool, calm, and collected. Right? Like mentally, you're cool. You're able to step out of the situation, see it from a distance. It's got to do with perspective, right? The color green. Green has got to do with green and red are complementary colors.
Mm-hmm.
So they work together, right? So red is about action and eating and sensuous drive towards something. Green is what takes that and puts it somewhere. Green is also where the food comes from, right? Green is what takes sunlight, energy, and turns it into matter. So green is a halfway, a gatehouse between energy and matter. That's why all the plants' leaves are green. So green represents this. Orange, the word or means
wait,
light.
Hold on. I'm sorry, I have to interject. Isn't it curious? I don't know how it is in Africa, but in America we have red lights, red traffic lights, and that means stop. But you just said red is action. It wants you to take action on your desires. But here it's a color of negation.
That's very interesting. And I think that's because you're being confronted by red. So when you see the color red, you're aware there's going to be something happening in front of you, action happening. So like the red would make you go into green mode because they're complementary. Does that make sense? Like if you take a red object, I don't know if you've done this, but take a white piece of paper and draw a red circle and color it with red.
Yeah.
And stare at it intently and close your eyes.
Yeah.
After staring at it for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, you're going to see the exact complementary green color inside your head.
Yeah, you can do that with the sun.
You can do it with any color.
Yeah.
And it will always be the exact complementary color. So
Right.
if you want to discover a complementary color of another color and you want to get the hue exactly right, stare at that object color for a long time until the color's flashing in your eyes. And then stare at a plain white wall or a white screen background. And that color object will be projected onto the screen.
Right.
By your optical illusion.
Yeah.
But it will be projected in exactly the opposite color.
For sure, yeah. All right, so you're getting onto orange.
Yeah, orange is like the range, the orange. Or means light in all of our languages, right? So or means light in comes from Phoenician, which is affected, or in Hebrew, which is you're going to see the same thing in European languages and many languages. This or has got to do with light. Even in Asia, you'll see this. So the range of or is the range of light. So orange is got to do with a very vibrant color. It's probably the most vibrant color that there is, right? You don't see people wearing orange very much because it's so vibrant. And so if you think about what that means is it's the range of the vibrations of light. It's an expansive color that causes your consciousness to expand. It's a consciousness expanding color. And it's in the name.
And that's interesting because the blue and orange, teal and orange go very well together. And you were mentioning how blue is, that calm and contemplative and expansiveness. But but it also complements well with the orange. And going back to the sun, I remember from when I was sun gazing almost every day when we first started talking in Colorado. There, you stare at the sun long enough, and maybe because of the micro movements of your eyeballs, but it'll like it'll shift between orange and this blue. Like you look directly at the sun, it'll do these shifting patterns. It's really cool.
That is called the. It's got a name in the occult traditions. What do they call it? Gosh, it's been so long. The vibrating colors, I think it's referred to.
Okay.
And it's an optical effect that you can cause. You can cause it specifically using occult means. And when you start to see that, you're going to start to see into the ethers. You're going to start to see through matter and start seeing energy directly and start seeing auras. And so that's like a gateway towards developing the eyes potential. Yeah. But you're right. Those are the complementary colors flashing through, right? The complementary colors are breaking through your consciousness. So when you're staring at green, you're actually absorbing red. When you're staring at red, you're actually absorbing green. And orange and turquoise color, right?
Yeah.
Is it a turquoise color? No, sorry. Orange is red and yellow. So it's violet and green and violet, which makes it go from green to more into the blue, right? More into the blue spectrum. Yeah. But it's really interesting when you start to literally consider these colors and build a relationship with them. So that's what I would say, like an artist builds a relationship with color. Like, how do colors make you feel? Red makes you feel active and energized, hot. It can make you feel impulsive and angry, right? Yeah. Blue will generally make you feel peaceful. Yellow will make you feel like flamboyant. You want to express yourself, right? Yellow, you want to jump up on top of the hill and like, wow. And so all of these colors carry vibrational tones. And in like old musical score, the classical musicians studied this occult cosmology. So they understood that C was vibrating with red, and that red and C were vibrating together. And like you were talking about indigo and A are vibrating together. Violet's vibrating with A sharp, right? And so forth. Green's vibrating with G. And so all of the harmonic, the 12 notes of the 12 that we play, because there are 7 tones and 5 semitones, makes up a scale of 12.
Right.
They're all vibrating with those 7 bass notes.
Yeah.
And they make up 12 colors. And so those 12 colors have become rather like fundamental to like understanding how these tones work. Yeah. So like there's this relationship between sound and color. So I think like sound and vibration and color are probably a good place to start to make connections with the chakra.
Yeah.
This is why you'll see, like, if you're practicing traditional Vedic practice and you're tuning in with your chakra, you would consider your base chakra and you would imagine a yellow square.
Okay.
Right? And that yellow square would be the yellow energy, right? And that yellow square would be the vibration of the yellow energy. And bound in that square represents, the four directions. So that'd be your base chakra. Then your sacral plexus in Vedic traditions would have been considered as a silver crescent or a white crescent. So you would imagine a silver or a white crescent. and your solar plexus, your navel center where your food's digesting, would have been a downward pointing red triangle. And that downward pointing red triangle would be like pulling energy towards matter, decision, action, moving forward. And the heart center would have often traditionally been a blue sphere, for example, because it's got to do with elemental energies. And in some traditions, it would have become a green sphere, like a blue-green kind of turquoisey green kind of sphere. Your throat chakra would traditionally have been an indigo sphere, or even a very dark sphere. Some traditions they'll speak about the egg of the world as being black, but in very old traditional sense, it would have been an indigo sphere because it's where the psychic powers live. It's the mysteries. It's Venus. And your Ajna chakra would have been traditionally a kind of a translucent blue color. That translucent blue that flashes with orange. That orange translucent blue flashing color. So like those that have been traditional, and that's got to do with elements of consciousness, because we want to peg this vibrational field to the mental field. We want to peg this to the Akashic field, because it's literally the word for this chakra is the Akash, which is indigo. We want to peg this to the breath field, right? We want to bring coolness and peace to the heart because it thrives with that air elements, basic. We want to bring the fire into the solar plexus because the fire of digestion causes good absorption of nutrients. It makes you healthy. We want to bring the white or the silver reflective potential into the sacral plexus because that keeps you protected, like sexually, keeps your sexual energy energized, right? And the root chakra being yellow would have been like expressing physical expression, right, in the physical world, and being rooted in a life of expression. So like all of these colors are quite like important, and that's just like a system of Vedic, like traditional, how the colors would have been used in the chakras. But I think more than that, it's more just about really the sensations in your body, right? To pig your focus or your concentration in the center of your head, focus of your concentration in the center of your neck, behind this point here, right? Underneath your Adam's apple. And the center of your energy point in the heart, behind the heart, right? In the bottom part of the heart, not the top part of the heart, just to be clear. There's like a little vacuum there between the ventricles. The high energetic rain, which is energy's flowing this way and that way. Blood's going up, blood's going down, right? Different ventricles. And the point just above, a little while, like that much above your navel, is like where you feel your inner fire and your heat. And so to contemplate that is to contemplate, feel your navel, follow it in, feel that point and just contemplate it. There are mantras that you can use as well, like the earth element stimulated by like lam vibration, and the water element by vam vibration. And the fire is the ram. Ram brings that fire element in. And the air element is yam, will bring that air vibration into the heart center. And the akasha is related to home, will bring the and then of course we know the aum for the light center in the body. So this is like really fundamentally important to recognize and understand how sound, color, vibration, energy all plays in on these elemental states. And it's just training yourself to become aware of that using different techniques. But the key is people are always looking to open the higher chakras. I would recommend people working with the base chakra and really getting a sense of it and connecting with the trees and feeling that feeling in your base, which runs from the base of your spine right down through your feet into the earth. You look like you need to go somewhere.
No. What was you for the base, that yellow square? What was that sound?
Lam.
Lam.
Lam. Yes.
Gotcha.
So like the lamb, right?
Yeah. Like the land. Well, I don't necessarily have to go anywhere, but it's probably a good place to stop.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us. I pray you're all having an absolutely awesome day. Take it easy, keep smiling, keep loving, keep living, keep healing. Thank you, dear brother Jeremy. As always, it's been an honor.
Yep. Take care.
Om Shanti. Blessed be.